Spirit of the day. As we've been doing this work for the last 18 months, one of this quote has been staying with us. The larger the island of knowledge, the longer the shoreline of wonder. Now, it's only when I actually looked up who wrote it, but we've been using it for about 18 months. This is tonally an important part of what today is about, and is one of the things we see creative teams and organizations not that skillful at. They say they're moving into the unknown, but actually they're just replicating and repeating what they already know. It's based on opinion and defense. So actually the first skill that we're going to practice before break is actually let's get down on our maps what we already know. So let's assume that we already know quite a lot. What do we know? How do we get it down quickly? So that we can move to the shoreline and start to explore what we don't know. Which is quite a high risk for all of us, to expose what we know and not hide some of our knowledge in our back pocket to bring out later in the day. How can we really get to that edge of unknowing as soon as possible? So I just wanted to also position what we mean by creative teams a little bit more. And last time I talked about a 4-step model of teams, and this is a generic model of some of the ways we work. We see a lot of teams that work in what we call ad hoc when we go into systems. Scarily, they just meet when they want to meet. They don't create any rhythm in the system. Let's have a meeting. And we've got something to talk about. We really need to talk about. Often it's reactive and responsive-based teams. There are still quite a lot of those out there. It worries the hell out of me. The main form of a team, in business particularly, is operational. You know and recognize them because they have massive agendas, and you never get through them, or you always run late, and before you know it, you've already written the agenda for the next meeting again. And I'll come into what we mean a bit more about those, but that's the normal form of meeting we often see. Occasionally, we see strategic teams, people that are able to see sequence and pattern and rhythm, integrate internal and external data to find new ways forward, often around adjacencies or extrapolations of current reality. And why I've put a darker line around this one is often we still see strategy work done in a way that hasn't broken free of the norms, patterns, and orthodoxies of a system. They're just replicating them. They're still using that lens through which to think strategically. We put creative team as an evolutionary stage beyond the strategic. It is the team that's able to break free. And we've had the luxury, I suppose, privilege of trying to work in this area for 10 years because we're called on to do innovation work, breakthrough strategy, i.e. strategy that's going to change the rules of the game, culture change, transformation, and core purpose work. All of these require the formation or the use of teams, existing teams or new teams, and how do they break free? How do they break free of the orthodoxy, personally and collectively? So a creative team is that one that's able to break free, see a new meta position, often see a different elegant solution. One of the, and it's a kind of a cliche analogy that I read somewhere, was when on rivers, when they're bringing logs down the river and you get log jams, for many years they used to, in America, just blow up the jam. But they learned, well, actually it's cheaper to get in a helicopter, fly above the jam, work out the log that's in the way and pluck it out. And then everything flows again. For me, a creative team's job is to step up, to see the bigger pattern, to see what hasn't been seen, and to find the much more elegant way forward. And what we try and then work with in organizations is how to help teams move between being operational when they need to be operational. These are efficient ways of working. I've got a task, I've got stuff, I've got governance. If I need to get through it quickly, an operational team is an elegant way of doing it. If I now need to break the rules and find a more elegant solution, it's the least successful way of doing it. So actually, how does a team learn to move elegantly when it needs to, from moving from creative to operational and back again? And just wanted to put in a classic bit of data from the wisdom of teams, just to bring this to life a little bit more. As the theory goes, on the left-hand side, the lower you are in a system, in theory goes, the more mandatory task and time you have. You have stuff you have to do, in theory. This is the theory. You have less discretionary time. In theory, the higher and more senior you are, the more discretionary time you should have. The more choice you have of your time, you can be more choiceful. That's not how we often see it in systems. They fill, at whatever level, their stuff with mandatory tasks, or they believe they are. There's stuff we've got to do. We fill our agendas. And they don't step back and really use their time elegantly. And these could be the mirror image of operational and creative. Operational has stuff it needs to do. Creative has more freedom to work out what do I really need to focus on that's going to unlock the greatest value. And simply, following the logic, when you're the more senior, what are the multipliers that are really going to unlock value? You're going to find the breakthrough. Strategy, innovation, people and learning. It's not often the task, because senior leaders are actually good at pulling up the task of the people below them, as opposed to pushing it down and actually leveraging the uniqueness of their position, of seeing a greater pattern. So sometimes we call this the single leader work group. We meet lots of teams that the only thing they have in common is they report to the same person. They often sit around a table, big boardroom table, laptops open, PDAs, you're looking up when it's something to do with you. Scarily, I still see that often. As opposed to a creative team, which can unlock exponential multiplication of value to the power of the number of people in a team. So I bring this forward as a symbol because you're sitting around this symbol. And your home group is in itself, the experiment today is how can we each explore what it means to be a creative team and how you unlock the space between. How it's not about the person in the middle, it's about the potential in the middle. And a creative team knows how to ride the creative roller coaster. It knows how to work with what it knows and not be limited by what it knows so that it can then move into the unknown and discover something new together and get to the exclamation marks, the breakthrough, the movement. But we are also very expert at flatlining. At every stage, we've almost been trained to flatline, to take the easy route, to actually not go into the risk, to collapse it personally or in the space between me and someone else, and suddenly you kill the potential of something new emerging. And we've learnt about 3 areas that we want to just play with today. The importance of how you onboard a creative team, the importance of the questing phase, the skills needed to go into the unknown, and how, when you're in the unknown, do you find a new way forward? How do you illuminate the new pathway, the new insight? And really, this is how we've designed the day.